Now, being a freelance writer and working from home is quite an attraction for a lot of people. For me, it means I don't have to drive to Denver on I-25 every day and have to face rush hour traffic. That right there is reason enough to stay home to work. But for whatever the reason, working from home does have quite a few advantages. I'm Michael with WriterSanctuary, and today I want to talk about how to get freelance writing jobs when you have no experience. Now, before we get started, if you find the video informative, hit the like button, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. For any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always hit me up on social media, Twitter and Facebook, or you can use the contact form on WriterSanctuary.com's website. I usually try to respond to the emails as quickly as I can, so that's a good way to get a hold of me. But getting freelance writing jobs when you have no experience isn't as easy as it might sound. I know there's a lot of bloggers and other YouTubers out there that make it seem like that you can get started today, and technically you can. But you also need to keep in mind that it's not necessarily going to pan out where you're making tons of money instantly. Now, before I start breaking down everything, let me give you a little bit of advice. First, don't expect a massive amount of income. Most of the best paying jobs out there are going to require some kind of either experience or education. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. Just be aware that it could take quite a long time before you can start making enough money to replace a full-time income. And if you have a job right now, don't quit just yet. You want to make sure that you're able to sustain yourself as a freelance writer before you could decide to quit that job. And personally, I took about 3 months of sustained income before I was able to quit my job at the school district. And the last piece of advice is practice, practice, practice. Serious clients want serious writers with skill. And the more that you can demonstrate your abilities, the more money you're going to make. But just because you have no experience doesn't mean that you shouldn't start beginning to put effort into it. Okay, getting freelance writing jobs when you have no experience, I would start with content mills. Now, I know a lot of people out there don't like content mills because you don't really get paid what you're worth. But if you have no experience, you're probably getting paid exactly what you're worth. They're a great way to get some of that experience underneath your belt and bring in some money. Now, after a year and a half of working with TextBroker, I was able to quit my job and write full time. In fact, I haven't had a traditional job since 2013. Now, content mills do serve a great purpose for bringing in income, getting some experience, and padding your resume. You also might want to consider using things like hub pages or even vocal media, just anything that gives you practice plus brings in a little bit of money. Now, you're not going to get rich off hub pages and stuff like that, but it's a good way to bring in some change or just to work out some of your own style and tone. And the more that you're able to demonstrate that you can write, the easier it is to get private clients and start landing some of those more high-paying jobs. And for me, that all started with TextBroker and Writer Access. The second thing you should do is create a professional blog. Now, a professional blog keeps your personal views aside, gives somebody a chance to look at your writing, and gives you a chance to demonstrate your skill. It can act as an online portfolio or resume. And from your professional blog, you can start pulling in some jobs from other clients, especially if you have like a contact form. In fact, once I added a contact form to WriterSanctuary, I've been offered all kinds of jobs. So it's definitely worth the time to go ahead and build one if you can. Personally, I pay about $150 a year. That controls my website and 3 domains, 4 now. But you don't have to pay for hosting if you don't want. You can always use a free blog, but that kind of takes away a little bit of the professional edge. For example, if you use WordPress.com to launch your own portfolio, the URL is going to be whatever your domain name is, .wordpress.com. It works, but it just doesn't have that professional here I am. It's like with mine, it's either WriterSanctuary or michaelbrockbig.com. But just make sure you have a contact form and break down what a client could expect if they were to reach out. The next thing you should think about doing is creating a Facebook page and a Twitter page that is for your professional use only. For one thing, you don't want potential clients to go through your timeline and see that you're saying happy birthday to your cousin or that you love cats. Now, a professional page on Facebook keeps all that set aside. You can link it to your blog and then have it auto-post directly from your content. It's a great way to keep your personal and your professional lives apart. Now, if the potential client wanted to do some digging through Facebook and find you that way, they probably could unless you set it to private. But for me, I find it's just easier to set up a Facebook page like I have one for WriterSanctuary.com. But ever since I set up the Facebook page especially, I've been contacted a few times from people who wanted content. The next thing you should do is create a LinkedIn profile. Now, LinkedIn is kind of like Facebook, but for professionals. And it's pretty easy to build quite the network of people who can probably propel your writing career. Just make sure that if you set up a LinkedIn account that you flesh it out. Make it look like a nice, clean resume. Take some tips from other people and just create something that you'd be proud to show off to a potential employer. Now what about applying for jobs at Indeed or 24/7 Talent? Most of the jobs that you can find online like that are going to require a bachelor's degree or some form of extensive experience. In fact, when I was living in LA, most of the jobs I was looking for required a bachelor's degree, which I didn't have. But I was able to land the client that I did because A, I've been writing content for a very long time, and B, I was able to demonstrate my abilities. So sometimes you can get around all that if you have experience, but if you're just new to writing, it's much more difficult. So what about cold pitching emails? Now for the most part, cold pitching emails could work, but it's going to require quite a bit of confidence on your part. Essentially, you have to talk somebody into hiring you with no experience as a writer. And in those cold pitch emails, you would link off to your blog or posts that you've created. Some freelancers will even include a doc file of a sample of their writing. Now, cold pitching emails can be successful, but it's going to take a lot of emails before you land that job. Because you got to consider, if I'm telling you to do it, there's a lot more people out there that are doing it as well. So you have to create an email that separates you from the competition. I'm talking you would have to send out hundreds of emails before you land that perfect writing job, especially if you have no experience. So what about guest blogging? Now guest blogging is good for experience and it gives you something to show off to potential clients. But you need to keep in mind that not all guest blogging sites are going to pay you. For the most part, they do guest blogging for backlinks. Now you'll come across a few that'll pay guest bloggers, but it's not very common. And also bear in mind that a lot of website owners out there are extremely picky when it comes to content. I'm one of them. Which means as a new writer, it's going to be very difficult unless you can throw out some amazing pieces. Now most of the best paying freelance writing jobs are going to require some form of experience, not necessarily education. Like I mentioned earlier, with a bachelor's degree, that'll open all kinds of writing doors. But if you don't have that, then you have to start at the bottom, work your way up. In my case, I started with content mills and just expanded until I started collecting private clients. The bottom line is that without experience, it's going to be really difficult to land some of those high paying jobs. You need to research how to write an AP style. You need to research how to write SEO content, and you need to practice as often as possible. Now, I'm not saying that's impossible, that you're not going to be able to make money right off the bat. But just keep in mind that it's going to take quite a bit of time and effort, especially if you don't have experience. But there's plenty of ways that you can make money writing online. Just until you get some of that experience under your belt, it's going to be a lot more difficult and you're going to have to put in a lot of effort to succeed. So what prompted you to start as a freelance writer? Leave in the comments down below. For me, it was to offset the income from working for the school district. I mean, $8 an hour doesn't really go far when you have a family of 4. So the writing income offset some of the pay that I wasn't getting. Till it got to the point where I was using TextBroker to make twice as much as what I was making at the school district, so I quit. That was back in 2013, and I've been writing ever since. Good times. If you found the video informative, hit the like button. If you want to learn more about TextBroker, freelance writing, WordPress, or anything else I cover, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think that's going to do it for me today. I'll see you tomorrow.